Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to introduce to you to a new solution that will change the way credit unions find and evaluate fintechs and other service providers. My name is Julie Esser. I'm CEO and founder of Ignitify. At Ignitify, we work with credit unions and fintech providers to drive innovation, helping credit unions stay competitive in an evolving financial landscape. We understand the right fintech partnerships can help credit unions enhance member experiences, streamline operations, and stay ahead of industry trends. But we also know that finding the right fintech partner can be a major challenge, and it's often time consuming, complex, and lacks transparency. So that's why we're here today. We're excited to introduce you to FINNECT. FINNECT is an independent credit union led platform that is designed to make fintech discovery easier for you, more transparent, and it's built especially for credit unions. I'm also joined today by Christopher Beltran, founder of Common Bonds, and Common Bonds is a platform powering FINNECT. Chris has been instrumental in building community-driven solutions that foster collaboration across the financial industry. Chris, welcome. Can you share a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, Julie. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Christopher Beltran. I grew up in the credit union space. My father was CEO of a credit union for many years. So I kind of grew up in and around branches and admins and back office and all that fun jazz. And then I made my career through building startups in community space. So a lot of intranets, a lot of board governance, a lot of how do you get credit union teams together in interesting ways. And this is just kind of the next step of that. Is when I first heard of FINNECT, it attracted me in the sense that it kind of got together both my community background through Common Bonds, which is the platform that you'll see today, as well as sort of my love for credit unions and everything you guys do. Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about the challenge and why FINNECT was created. So this idea was started by Filene's i3 Innovation Group. It was called a project by the name of Credit Union FinTech Connect. Christopher, yeah, there you go. And if you're unfamiliar with the Filene i3 program, it's a program that brings together credit unions and to help solve some real industry challenges. So this is kind of the concepts or the problem statements that they were trying to solve for in this research project. And there were really three big challenges or problems that they had identified. And one of them is finding the right fintech partners in complex and time consuming. Existing directories lack credit union specific insights. Many of them are pay to play and have limited transparency. And of course, everybody that I talk to, every credit union I talk to, have limited resources to vet and evaluate potential providers effectively. It was interesting to also note here how much time was taken on different functions in the search process, from searching and filtering to evaluating providers, comparing shortlists and vendors and things like that. I mean, the time it takes can add up quickly, and sometimes you go through a lot of that process only to find they're not the right fit. So credit union leaders needed a better way to identify and compare fintech solutions, one that provided real feedback from trusted peers. And that's why the Filene i3 team developed Credit Union FinTech Connect, which has now evolved into FINNECT. If you could change to the next slide, please. So what exactly is FINNECT? FINNECT is an independent credit union-led platform designed to simplify fintech and service provider selection. It helps reduce risks through trusted insights from industry peers. It saves time by helping you find fintechs and service providers that align with your strategy, your member needs, and your technology environment. It also facilitates collaboration with other credit union leaders to co-create solutions and drive innovation. The goal here is really to help credit unions find the right partners faster, with more confidence, and backed by real-world experiences from other credit unions. Chris, can you now share how Kanban plays a role in making FinTech a collaborative, peer-driven platform?
Yeah, certainly. So Common Bonds is essentially a generic community platform that was developed with the aim of bringing B2B, so businesses together instead of a general purpose online out in the public for individuals type community. There's special capabilities we want when we bring businesses together in teams of employees. So Common Bonds was developed for that. It was adopted early on by the FI Community Client Association, some of which you guys might be involved with. So the DNA Client Association leverages Common Bonds as well. That one has over 3,000 active financial institution employees on any given week and month, over 12,000 discussions. The nice thing about that is if you already have a login into FI Community Association, then we're going to make it really easy for you so that you use the same login into FINNECT, and you'll be able to toggle between the two communities, which makes that really, really nice. Um, so yeah, so Common Bonds is simply the name of the underlying software that we're using. The nice part about that is that as we evolve and grow, and what you'll see in FINNECT is our goal with FINNECT is for it to look very, very basic. We all use SharePoint and these very elaborate systems internally, and those are evolved for certain purposes. FINNECT has a very concise, focused approach. And what we wanted to do is, while the workings of how Julie's team is working on the back end are fairly complex, we wanted the simple part of the experience to be as simple as possible. So the good thing for that is we're starting day one with, very, very basic functionality. It'll get you there. It'll get exactly what we're accomplishing the mission. And what we're really curious about, and what I get curious about, is where we'll take it in the future, right? As every software company will say. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have control over that path and that ability. So that's where it's really nice that it's kind of in the family, in the sense that we have really direct access to my dev teams and our enhancement ability and things like that. And that's the same benefit the FI Community Client Association has seen with Common Bond. So we're excited where we are day one. And then we're also excited because there's a whole slew of interesting ideas coming in the future. So yeah.
So here are some
Go
features
ahead.
that make FINNECT different from your traditional vendor directories. What we have built in here are some smart search filtering capabilities. So there's a lot of different filter categories and components that you'll be able to create your short list from for different service providers and fintechs. It could help match your technology stack. So if you have certain cores and certain digital banking providers, different LOS systems that you use, you can use those smart search filters to create your short list from, so you know who you need to talk to. Also, different categories in terms of products and services as well. The trusted peer reviews component, this again provides that unbiased feedback that you're looking for from your peers. It is set up sort of like an Amazon for credit union fintechs and service providers. And so when we show you the platform, you'll see the 5-star systems that we've created, where the feedback of reviews and comments come in. And there's several different categories of reviews that you yourself can evaluate and also learn from. Uh, we are designed this platform to help solve industry challenges as well. We're bringing a community together of really smart people and within our industry. And so not only will we be able to discover fintechs, but my goal here is to see how we can solve some industry challenges through practical use cases that we can invite fintechs into to help solve for us. So it's kind of reversing the model of fintechs in a way of, here's a solution. I have a solution to help solve your problem. Let's talk about some of the challenges and problems we as an industry face and see how fintechs can serve those needs. And then lastly, one of the key components here is just collaboration. You can learn from credit union leaders. You can create lists of credit union peers that also match your technology stack or utilize certain products or services here too. So there's a lot of basic, as Christopher said, this is our MVP, this is our minimal viable product, but there's a lot of features and functionalities built into this today that you'll be able to utilize and get a lot of value from, and it's only going to take off from here. So let's dig into the platform itself. And Christopher is going to get us through, take us through some scenarios and some of the key components of the platform for us.
Cool. Thanks, Julie. All right, let's get ourselves out of PowerPoint for a moment. And can everybody see my browser? Julie, are you
Yes.
maybe give me a
Yep,
thumbs up on
all
that?
looks good.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so first and foremost, it's a pretty standard login screen. Nothing really particularly fancy about that. When we go to register, registration is really easy. It's a pretty basic registration screen. You click on who you are, a fintech or a credit union, and then you fill out a very simple profile there. So we're just going to ask for your work email. It's important that you use your work email, your name, a password, invitation code. You're all cordially invited, so you can excuse that. You don't have to worry about an invite code of any kind. And then promo code, Julie will be handing out certain special promo codes that will help you get through some of the pricing parts when we need it. So that's exciting, really, really easy. Nothing particularly interesting there. Once you do get approved, first thing that's going to happen when you register is it's going to recognize you as the first person in your organization to register. And what it'll do is it'll present you with just a message to say, hang tight while Julie's team approves you. And that's just to make sure we make sure and not let the general public in and make sure that you're a valid credit union and so forth. Once your first person has registered and the credit union account is set up, which usually takes only about a day. From then on, any other person in your credit union that registers, they just go right into the community. There's no approval needed. They're just let right in, and it's an instant access, which is really, really nice. So we highly encourage you to have more than one employee be able to register as part of the same organizational account. So what I'm going to do is just go back and I'm going to log in as a demo account. So I've set up a chris@democu.com and just have you kind of see what the welcome screen looks like. This is what you'll see when you first sign in. As you can see, it's very, very basic, deliberately, very intentional. So there's three main areas that you'll only see the first time you sign on. It's about finding providers to connect with, finding other credit unions, and then joining some groups. So what I'm going to take you through first is show you sort of the heart and soul of FINNECT, which is how do we find vendors and how do we manage this idea of figuring out, from this giant marketplace of all these thousands of vendors, who's who and what's what. The first thing we wanted to do and first way we approached it was a simple search box, right? And you can always search at the top. And we all know that from, Google for the last 30 years. One thing that we noticed, though, is that there are many different sort of shopping endeavors going on in a credit union at any one time. Sometimes the head of HR is just kind of contemplating things. I'm thinking about replacing the system. I just want to have a heads up. Maybe next year, the next 2 years, we're going to replace something. So there's kind of a thought of, okay, maybe I should start keeping my eye on some people for the future. Then in the same credit union, another, senior management person or decision maker might be thinking, you know what, I've got budget for this project. This is a 2025 project. I'm ready to go. I'm actively looking for a particular vendor in a particular category that meets certain criterias. And so the first thing we noticed is there's lots of needs for searching. And one of the things is yes, searching's important, but it's also important on how we capture those results. And a lot of us tend to do Excel spreadsheets or just a notepad on our desk, and we say, Google this, great, looks like a good vendor, jot them down. And then it kind of stops from there. And what we wanted to do is take that a little step further with FINNECT. So we came up with this concept called lists. We borrowed it from the CRM kind of world. And the idea is that you can create multiple lists of providers based on certain things. And then we can do some interesting things with those lists. So to see my list, I'm going to go to my community and my lists, and I'm going to go ahead and create one. So I'm going to create something. I'm just going to make this up. Mobile banking providers shortlist. So here in this case, I'm going to create a short list of vendors that service mobile banking. Maybe that's what I'm in the market for and I'm looking. And I'm also going to do something called active. There are two kinds of lists, active and static. I'm going to show you both today. They're pretty straightforward. Static is just the same thing as when we jotted on a piece of notepad or notepaper. And that's in the sense that we just manually add organizations to a list arbitrarily. And that's just for our own use. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make it called an active list. And what this means is I'm not just going to throw in names arbitrarily. I'm going to actually use live criteria and be able to pull out from all the research that Julie's team has done certain criteria. And then the portal's going to watch out for me. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. So if I go into my mobile banking providers list, there's nothing in my short list today. So I'm going to edit some filters. So the first filter I'm going to do is I'm going to say, and I'm going to open this and you guys can see there's a lot of different areas of products and things that are offered by that Julie's team has sliced and diced. And this is bound to change over time as we learn more and how do we group functionality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, I want to see vendors that offer certain digital banking products. And I'm specifically interested in mobile banking. So I'm going to save that filter. So on my right, I get 15 organizations. Now let's just say, and I'm being very, very basic here, but I'm just going to add another filter and basically narrow that down just a little bit more. Maybe within my credit union, we have a policy or a desire from our CEO or CIO or anybody that we want our mobile banking provider to definitely be a QSO. Maybe we want to make sure it's a QSO. So we have a specific under business area, we have is a QSO. So I can click yes, no, or unknown, and I want to make sure that it's a QSO. When I add that filter, it just narrows it down to 2. And we've all used query tools like this in the past. So what we hope is that the tool looks super easy. What I'm hoping is that you guys are all nodding like, oh yeah, that's cake. Like that's super easy, no big deal, good to go. So if that's the case, then that's great. We're successful on that standpoint. What we do now is, what's nice is now you have a nice list, right? So this active list will stay there. Now, what's great is about this list is the portal is going to keep an eye out for things for you. So you can sign out of FINNECT, not talk to it for a little while. As Julie's team and the data inputs come in from the internet, from the team, we have a couple of different inputs where that data is coming from, or when new vendors register themselves as QSOs delivering mobile banking providers functionality, then that item will automatically get added to your list and you'll get an email in your inbox notifying you to that. So you'll get an email saying, hey, this provider, has met your new criteria for integration, for asset size, for whatever criteria you want. And, we just want to let you know and bring it to your attention, which is the first time I've seen where you have this watch list idea where a system is actively watching the credit union fintech space. I think that's really cool. So that's the first thing, is that building these lists are not just a one-time effort. They're really, really handy for kind of having the portal monitor it and do the work for you over time, which I think is really cool. So that's that piece. Now I'm going to do just a quick, let's say we're going up to a conference and I want to start logging some vendors to make sure and see. There, it's not criteria. It's just, I've read in a magazine, so-and-so told me to look out for a certain vendor and so forth. Hey, Chris, you're going to that conference, make sure and talk to so-and-so. So in this case, I'm just going to make a static list, my conference list. I can come in here and start adding organizations the same way. I can add filters to start to look for different organizations. So I can see again, maybe digital banking, maybe I'll do the same thing. And then I can just check off which ones I want to add to the list, which is super easy. I'm just checking off some random ones. I can also start to add lists directly from their profile. So if I search for Microsoft, and that's just a general, search on the inside our portal right there. If you click on Microsoft, here's the vendor profile. And while you take some of this in, at the top right, you'll see that my GAC vendors to see list is right here. And right here off the profile, I can very easily just add it right to my list right there. And that's just an easy, quick way to just conglomerate a list. Great. As soon as we have some other features of sharing and things like that, we'll be able to do some more advanced things. But some really, really nice stuff in terms of what that profile looks like. adding lists, creating things, and then be able to kind of quickly shortlist that stuff pretty quickly. So the other thing I'll just highlight while I'm here is the reviews. So Julia's mentioned that. So there's different reviews in different ways. You can also expand and kind of get on different virtues or different aspects of a vendor conglomerate. We also do trim off the reviews after 12 months. We all know that reviews get stale, so we want to be able to make sure and show only current reviews. Another thing too, just to know about reviews, is that because providers also have logins into the system, is that we've already set it to where the providers don't have access to your direct emails. So your email address is not shown. In this case, I'm demoing it here. So your job title is hidden and the email is hidden. We can also hide your name. By policy, if you yourself want to make sure that you're completely anonymous when you're giving a review, when you write a review, it's a very simple checkbox that just says, keep myself anonymous. And that will override all the system settings and you'll be anonymous to everybody and no one will know what you said, which is, handy in some cases. Other times we want our feedback to be known. This is also useful for congratulating vendors, especially if a business development person has done a good job, if a support person has done a good job at a vendor. Oftentimes we send them a really good thank you, but there's not a lot of good forums where we can kind of publicly state, that so and so really helped my job and other credit unions can see it. You can go on a public forum on the internet and voice there, but this is one of the first times where that other credit union employees that are dealing with those same people and most likely the same divisions and support staff are going to see it, which I think is really, really, really valuable in that regard and worth putting in those reviews. So the last part that I'll kind of show you is some groups. So apart from the lists that we have here, in terms of the lists that are individual to you, there are a number of groups that Julie's team is coming up with, and they're working on. So if I go into join groups, I can see a whole bunch of different groups that I might want to join. There are some fun groups, there's hot topic groups, there's latest trends groups, there's a bunch of different ones, and no doubt more will come. So I'm just going to join the Practical AI group. And what you'll see now is under latest trends, I'll see a group called Practical AI. And under here, it's a simple discussion forum. So I can post questions, other credit unions can see those answers. They can vote up answers and say, I really like this person's answer to that, or I support it. These groups may also hold informational webinars or meetings themselves. We don't know where that's going to go yet, so I just put in a sample webinar for now. This is a meeting that might take place next week. When we do that, the group members are able to suggest agenda items. So somebody might say, hey, we're going to do this wonderful webinar on this interesting topic in 3 weeks. And you're able to basically contribute and say, you know what, I think this would be a good agenda item. I don't want you just to cover, something to sell me, or I don't want to know how wonderful another credit union is. I want them to address certain things. And this gives the community and the group members an opportunity to voice that. And then the organizer of the meeting can take that into account when they end up doing their webinars and their presentations, which I think is it's a very subtle little thing, suggests an agenda item, but it's heavily used in the other communities I work with within credit unions, and I think it'll be heavily used here. So this is when we all get together and we chat about something on Zoom or Teams. So yeah, those are the main features for right now. And again, we look forward to seeing what kind of lists you choose. Like I said, we intentionally kept it very, very simple, very easy. We don't want to go overboard just yet. But what I do think you'll find is that the types of filters, the data that's been collected in there is fairly substantial. There's a lot of data points you can integrate with and say, show me all vendors that, are in this particular state, that cater to members, that serve members internationally, different currency support, IT, API support, what time of single sign-on support they have, all sorts of different things are being amassed with these vendors. So yeah, I think that part's great. Let me switch back to the slides, and I'm just going to talk a little bit more. We do get a lot of questions around, this is great to have all this vendor info in there, But first of all, how are you going to, get it all in there? There's, 100,000 plus fintechs out there, and they change every day is what it feels like. And they do, right? This week, somebody's going to get their SOC 2 compliance. Next week, somebody else will get their SOC 1 or SOC 2. So, how do you keep up with the ever changing landscape, right? Well, the first thing to note is that it's never perfect. None of us can make that perfect. We all go through those exhibit halls at the conferences, we flip through the magazines, we do our best, right? And it's always pretty darn good. It's never perfect, but it's close. And so, what I think Julie's team has done well is they've recognized that. And they said, we're never going to be able to claim 100% accurate every single minute of the day because a press release announcing something new can come out next in an hour from now. So what they've done is they've said we also can't rely on any one source for that data, right? There's no magic database in the air that has every single vendor data always up to date. So what they've said is they've said let's take a multi-pronged approach and let's rely on different data sources. And I think that was kind of pretty genius on their standpoint. So one of the things they're doing is they've opened up the community to the providers themselves, right? Why not get it from the horse's mouth? So the providers themselves have an opportunity to register, come in, keep their profile up to date, and update their profile for your benefit. We obviously hope that they do that. They're strongly incentivized to do that because you're shopping using those criteria. So we've got a number of vendors that are basically clamoring to just get in there, update their profile, and set all that data up. So that's the first thing is having the providers hopefully incentivized enough to complete their own data. We know that's going to be perfect, maybe, but maybe not. So we're also leveraging outdoor LLMs, public pieces like ChatGPT. There's a number of LLMs out there that are focused on gathering business data for Salesforce and people like us. So we're starting to integrate several different AI inputs and be able to say maybe every week, maybe every hour, it goes and confirms a lot of the data that we've collected with sort of their press releases on their websites and things like that. And if there's new data that it has, it may bring it in, whereas the member themselves or the person at the vendor site may not even be aware just yet because some of these companies are pretty large. Now, in addition to these two outside forces acting, FINNECT has their own human team that is reviewing. And that's, as best as they can. So Julie's got some folks that are every month, every quarter going to go in and say, let's take a batch of vendors and let's just kind of do our homework and double check their profiles. Let's make sure they look good. Let's manually go to the website, manually go with whatever data we have from them, and let's just see if that's still the case. So we also have humans reviewing that, which I think is a huge benefit to you on the credit union side, just in the sense that you now have a team of people actively out there trying to bring in the most up-to-date vendor information possible on your behalf. And more than that, you don't even have to go in and read up on all those updates. All you have to do is set the criteria you're looking for. When that criteria includes a new member, you'll get notified of it, which I think is super powerful again. And then the last piece that I'm sort of, selfishly, this is the part I pride myself on the most with credit unions, is that we have this peer reviews and member feedback. So there's a number of features they're working on to start to bring in to act on those reviews. So for example, inside the filter area, you might be able to say, show me mobile online banking vendors that are QSOs that are rated four stars plus by credit unions of my asset size, right? So if I'm a large credit union, a billion plus, if a small credit union rates them amazing, maybe that's important to me. Or maybe I only want to see the opinions and the ratings and reviews of credit unions a billion plus, or whatever is in my particular asset range. So I think that's where it's going to be really, really interesting is when we get credit unions helping each other, because we all know that. I grew up going to those conferences. We all know, we all chit chat. We have our 5 or 6 friends that we talk to in the industry that we leverage for opinions on vendors, right? How was it? How was their support? How did the product, did it integrate well? Our system is in-house versus data center, all those good things. We want to make sure, and how do you amplify that? You're always going to have your 3 to 4 best friends that you call, but then how can this augment that? How can we shed light on new vendors and new providers that you may not have thought about? And more than that, if they fit certain criteria that you come up with, then hopefully we'll alleviate sort of those time honored sales calls that neither the sales guy or you enjoy, which is where you spend 2 hours on a call only to find out that it's an incompatible system or they're not a QSO or something very basic like that. And you could have, both saved yourself a lot of time by understanding that about each other beforehand. And that's kind of the goal with the Ignite project and FINNECT and the whole thing is basically to save you a little bit of time on just the shortlisting part. It's not going to get you to the purchase point, but it'll get you far enough to say, you know what, instead of 15 vendors, I only have to think about two. And that we hope will do some good and kind of move the needle forward in terms of efficiency and fastness in terms of how you do that. So again, in this case, there's 4 different data sort of points coming in with the vendor data that all comes into those pretty comprehensive profiles that detail everything, and they're constantly growing. Brian on Julie's team is amazing at this, constantly suggesting new fields, reevaluating. We're relying on you guys to also tell us, I could really use this field. I'm not sure if this field is specific enough. Can you add some more granularity there? This piece will continue to kind of evolve over time. That all gets fed into that shortlisting engine, which manifests itself for right now in terms of those lists based on queries. And that's where we hope you guys will start to use it and come up with lots of different uses for being able to funnel out all this wonderful data that's being pushed in. Yeah, Julie, do you want to say anything on this before I get back to you?
No, not on this in particular, but as I was watching through the demo, and believe me, I've seen the demo a few times, I always feel like I think of something else, how this can be used. And so, for the credit unions out there that are thinking about this platform, I hear so many credit unions creating innovation teams or groups of cross-departmental a team of cross-departmental individuals that will research and evaluate different things. What if you had that collaboration inside a platform like this? We have the ability of creating private groups just for your credit union in this too, where you can collaborate and have access to these additional tools as well. And also on the service provider, the fintech side, they will also have their opportunity to create their own private groups. So think about those as user groups. So I'm hoping that if there is a service provider that you all are using, that they in turn will use FINNECT, creating a private group of their customers so you can provide continuous feedback on their solution. And so that can only make it better. One last comment I'm sure that you're thinking about is, all right, Julie, this sounds great, but how much does it cost? And I'm not sure if you saw that in the registration page, but we have priced this to make it affordable for any credit union of any size to utilize. Again, this is a platform built by credit unions for credit unions. This is your tool. And so we have allowed access. Your subscription access, again, covers anybody at your credit union. It is just a small $1,000 per year, not per month, per year subscription rate for this platform. I'm super excited about that. Again, we wanted to make this the tool for you all to utilize and to grow upon to really help with innovation. We know how fast technology is moving. And so it's our part in trying to keep the industry on top of those new innovations and try to create solutions that really fit within our ecosystem. So how to get started? So you can visit the website at joinfinnect.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there is a registration button. If you click on that, you can go ahead and get started and join the community right away. They're just, like Christopher said, they're just a small approval process just to make sure we're just letting in credit unions and applicable service providers for our industry. But that's the only vetting that we do, and that process goes relatively fast. So again, just to highlight some of the key benefits of FINNECT, you can use the platform to reduce your risks with trusted insights and from the industry peers that are using these products and contributing to providing valuable information about their own experiences relating to those organizations. You can save time in finding fintechs and other solution and service providers that align with your strategy, your member needs, and also your technology stack. And thirdly, just to collaborate with your peers. Again, I am super excited about this part. Obviously, from what we do at Ignitify and helping credit unions and organizations really define their use cases specifically for our industry, this will be a very powerful way to gain more member access. Credit union, not consumer member, but credit union access and feedback into these new innovations. So we'd love to hear more about what your thoughts and answer some questions that you might have thought of during the presentation today. So if you have questions, feel free now to go ahead and put those in the chat for us, and we'll take some time to answer those for you.
So we have two questions in the chat already. The first question is, how long are lists stored on the platform?
Yep. So first and foremost, there's no limit to the number of lists you can choose, and there's no expiration. So they'll stay there as long as your subscription's active, and they'll just stay there forever. So there's no limit. You can kill them anytime, but the list will stay active as long as you want.
And then is there a limit to the number of filters I can apply to a search?
Nope. There's actually no I don't believe there's any limits at all on any data that you saw in the portal. So no limit on number of filters, number of fields used, number of vendors you add to a list, no limit to the number of groups you participate in, the number of discussions that you add, the number of comments you make. There's no limits to number of employees as well, like Julie mentioned. So we want to make sure and take out the per user burden. But no, there's no data limits in terms of what you do in there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's the questions we have.
Cool. Nice.
All right.
Phew.
Well, thank you all for joining us today.
Yeah.
I hope you're excited about this platform and what it can do now and in the future. We will be sharing this recording out to everybody that registered for the event. Our plan also is to continue to have ongoing webinars about FINNECT over the next 6 months to introduce the product. We'll continue to provide updates on new enhancements and new features that will be implemented or in the workings. Feel free to share this with any of your credit union peers as well. Again, this is a platform built by credit unions for credit unions, and so your insights are extremely valuable in making this product successful for the industry. I've added my contact information here. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any feedback or questions that you'd like to have answered. Happy to collaborate, or ideas that you might have on the platform and how we can make this better. So we're looking forward to seeing you on FINNECT and helping you find the right fintech partners to work with a lot of ease, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks everyone.